one of the most expensive cars ever sold was this. The Ford... Okay, well, I've put it in a bit of a state. But the Ford GT... Well, this one was the Ford GT40. It was sold at an auction for $12.983 million. That's once adjusted for inflation and the like, but that was one of the most expensive cars ever sold. But it wasn't exactly this car, and you know, this is just the normal GT. That was the GT40, and it had a different livery. I've gone for a close enough, but I have a backup, because without any, you know, it's kind of not the same car, it kind of is. Without any of that, is the Jaguar E-Type. Was sold for, okay, I'm trying to find the number, $8.844 million. When adjusted for inflation, of course, was this E-Type, making it, technically speaking, the most expensive car in street. But obviously, this was actually a motor pass car, and you can't actually get it in the game, and the most expensive car in street is the Dodge Interception unit. But hey, I'm telling you this for a reason. Because what's going on? My name is Sid, and today I'm going to be trying to figure out what is the most expensive race in the game. Now, if you watched a video I did a while back, you may already know this, but we're gonna figure this one out together. First of all, an average street race. Now, is this... Okay. So we have a Dodge... Dodge. We have Audi TT, a Nissan GTR, a Mustang, is that an Exige? An Exige and a Porsche 911 GT3 RS, I'm going to assume. And of course, the Ferrari. Of course, the first number is $8.844 million. I see a Dodge Challenger starting at $32,000, which is insane. That is definitely an American number. Then what have we got here? So a Ferrari, I believe that's the F12 Berlinetta, I want to say. So, okay, I'm seeing prices of £180,000 on a car sales website, and that is about $200,000. God, how the pound has fallen. Okay, if I can actually catch up. So, we've got a Mustang, a TT, a GTR, Exige, and 911 GT3 RS. Should be easy. An Exige starting price is $52,900. I don't want to believe it, but I'm seeing nothing shy of $175,000 for the Porsche 911 GT3 RS, Nissan GTR at $86,000, the Mustang at $55,000, and finally, an Audi TT $63,542. That puts this street race right here with some very instant research, really, at $9,509,602. And the funny thing is, I'm carrying the bulk of all of that price. If I wasn't in this thing, what would that be? Like closer to 2 million, maybe? This thing really carries the bulk of all of that price, being in the list of some of the most expensive cars ever sold. But that's the trend here, because we now know how much your average street race costs, but a more common knowledge expensive car is in hypercar. Now, right now, do you know what the most expensive hypercar in the game is? The one that's sold for the most consistently. One that is going to be added to the other value of the other hypercars in this race to get the most expensive race. Could it possibly be the La Voiture Noire? Could it the Chaos Master Leader? Could it be the Chiron Supersport? Could it be the Regera, the Senna, the Jesko? No, in fact, it is the most expensive car ever sold that is in hypercar is the McLaren F1. Yes, no one tell Rowan Atkinson, but this is the most expensive car ever sold that is in hypercar. It was sold at most for $20 million adjusted for inflation. And here it is racing amongst some other very, very expensive cars. But I'm gonna speedrun this one. I won't waste too much time and give you the value of the most expensive hypercar race. Now, I'm sure if you got in a full if you got in a full crew of McLaren F1s, yes, that would technically be more. Is someone back there? Who's back there? I need to know what car that is. But you know, I guess that would make it a bit more expensive. Oh, it's the Jaguar. Ew. But here we go. We begin with the McLaren F1 at $20.465 million. Disgustingly, Janice over here in a CX-75 Jaguar. That thing is at about 1.5 million. Glenn is cruising in about a $3 million car. Surprisingly, a bit of a dip down with Russell in a $1.42 million car. Okay. Although I would say those vanities definitely should plummet the price. The 918 sits at a modest $845,000. The king of the streets is cruising in a $1.15 million McLaren P1. The McLaren MC12 is over there by Aaron, about a $1.1 million car. And finally, up in first is Wayne in a $2.5 million Agera R. Ow. Yes, again, the bulk price is sat with me in my McLaren F1 that I've crashed. I mean, call me Mr. Bean now, you know. But that puts the most expensive hypercar race that you can do with only one person in the crew, because obviously only one McLaren F1, is $30.88 million worth. This race, obviously, it would be like what? Like if I was in one of those kind of cars, it would be like what? Like 10, 11, 12 point something million. But yes, with this McLaren F1, $30.88 million. But what if I told you there is a race that is more expensive than that? There is a race that costs more, that is worth more, that could be sold for more. In fact, there is a race that features up to every single vehicle in that race as the most expensive car in the world. Because that race is in touring car. Over here, going back to my roots. Let's go to it. From a $20 million car over here, we're about to jump to a car that was sold on May the 5th, 2022. The most expensive car sale ever made was for the Mercedes-Benz 300 SLR Uhlenhaut Coupe. And that thing was sold for $142 million. Now, I've said that the bulk price is with just one car in a lot of these races, and that being the car that we're in, but that's not the case this time around. Because in this race, there isn't just our Uhlenhaut, but there is also 7 other cars, all the exact same car. That being the most expensive car ever sold. This is some big goddamn money. We have Victor in a $142 million car. Bryce in a $142 million car. Rachel happens to also be with Scott and Ricardo, all in $140 million cars, topped off with Donna and Clarence, all in $142 million cars. I'm being rammed and sliding around turns while everyone is literally in small economy worth cars. Movies have grossed less than the cars that we are driving. But combined, this race right here. Going back to my roots, the most expensive race in the entire game sits at... I've done the calculation. This race is a $1,136,000,000 race. Is how much this race is worth. Altogether, every car, the most expensive car ever sold, valued at $142 million. Here it is as a whole race worth, totaling $1 billion. This simple race with this simple car is worth over $1 billion, $1.1 billion. It's just insane money at that point. And you know, while we're here, I'm allowed to do that, so... What's that? Scraped off a clean million there? Maybe 2 million? Thank you to popular members. A special thank you to famous members. An insane thank you to star member Hoki. And an insane, unparalleled thank you to icon member Dustin for the love of life. That's going to be about it from me, boys. Check out one of my other videos after this one. It would be very much appreciated. In a bit.